Mm-mm, 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 mm-mm.
Yo, tonight on the Boom Bap Chat, we welcome in Queen Heroin. Yo, Till, yo, Io. Let's start the show.
Yes, let's start the show. I am MC
I am
Till.
profound.
Yes, sir. And I'm Ayamas Marad. What's
And
going on?
man, it is the Boom Bap Chat Thursday night, 10 p.m. ish, and we have an incredible guest tonight. And just before we introduce our guest, just want to know what's going on with you guys, man. Profound. What's going on with you this week, man? What's on your mind?
Oh man, about a week and a half left of school. So
Hmm.
preparing for the kids to be out of school for the summer. Went to my first coaches meeting for football that's coming up, And oh yeah, and you know what else? This.
Yes,
Oh, there it
sir.
is. It's not even out of the package. We can't even see it. We can't see what it
Yes,
is.
Yeah, because you
I
can't
know
sir.
hear
what
my
it is.
light is,
The
the
light is too
album.
bright.
It's too bright. That's the new Profound album right there. Yeah, that's dope, Profound. That's coming out soon. So make sure y'all get up on that. Dope, dope.
Indeed.
Iomas, how about you, man? What you on lately?
Man, just gearing up to come to Cincinnati, brother. You know what I'm saying? Just
Yes.
gearing up, putting things in order. Um, yeah, man, just looking forward to that, man. I'm excited. I'm excited to come to the Natty, you know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
yeah, looking
I'm
forward to that, man.
I'm excited to see you. For those that don't know, I'm in Cincinnati, and before the pandemic, we used to do programs about twice a year over at Everybody's Records, which is an unofficial sponsor of our show every Thursday. So shout out to them. And we would do all kinds of fun stuff: beat battles, sample flips, panel discussions, and we're having a Native Tongue Cincinnati event where we're going to be doing some performing, got a DJ spinning, some panel discussion around the influence of the native tongues for those of us in the room that day. So it's going to be a good time. So if you're in Cincinnati, please come out. Everybody's Records this Saturday from 1 to 4 p.m. And Io Moss is going to be in the room. And I've been working on getting that together. And I'm still trying to find you some daggone drums, man. I can't find. You just need a kick drum, a snare, and a
And a
hi
hi
hat.
hat.
And a
That's
hi
it,
hat.
bro.
I'm trying, man. I'm still trying. We're gonna get it. We're gonna get
That's
it,
what
man.
Tip
I'm gonna try.
said. You know what
Yeah,
I'm saying? The kick, snare,
yeah,
kicks, a hi
And
hats.
hi
That's
yeah.
hat.
That's
it.
that.
That's
That's
all
it.
we need,
Yeah.
man.
Well, yo, our guest for tonight is of that vein. She is one of the illest MCs, but more than that, and probably even more important, she has a brilliant mind. She's in the educational space where she is doing her thing, educating the next generation, the youngins, and we just really appreciate this human being that's with us tonight. Please give a nice warm welcome to Queen Heroin to the Boom Bap Chat. Yeah.
That was so serious, y'all. Thank you. I wasn't ready for the extra sound effects like the crowd. Thank you
Mhm.
guys so much. It's a pleasure to be here with all of you.
Yeah, man,
No
it's a
doubt.
pleasure to have you. We do 100% all natural sound effects here, so we appreciate
I
you
see.
being here.
I see. Very
Uh,
dope. Very dope.
yo, we like to appreciate our guests. We definitely appreciate you. So I want to throw it over to Io Mas to give you some flowers.
And
Okay.
for this sister, Queen Heroin, I look up to you so much. Words cannot express what you mean to me as an artist. And then when I got the chance to meet you as a person, it's always amazing when you meet an artist that you look up to and you admire, and then they're just as great of a person than they are of an artist. So that's how I feel about Queen Heroin. Like, I just think you're amazing. And I just appreciate the work that you do with your brother, with the Juggaknots on the hip hop side, and then on the education side. And definitely, you all were the ones that made me want to become an educator, not only a hip hop artist, but to like pursue education on a different level. And so I just want to give you your flowers and let you know from me, from Pro, from Till, from the whole Boom Bap Chat family that we just got love for you. And we glad that you took the time to come here. And we just want to let you know how much you mean not only to the hip hop culture, but how much you mean to education space too as well. So we just want to give you your flowers and say keep doing what you're doing. We see.
Thank
We
you.
see. Yeah,
Thank you
no
so
doubt.
much. I mean, what an introduction. Talk about flowers. I got lilies, I got calla lilies, I got, roses, peonies, I got all kinds of things. I'm so humbled by that. Wow, that was a phenomenal introduction. I don't even know what to say other than thank you all genuinely. Like, I don't know, that's too much. That's too much. Thank you. Thank you. It's really sweet.
No,
I
it's never
appreciate
too
all
much.
y'all.
It's
Thank
never
you
too
so
much.
much. Thank
Yeah,
you,
it's
y'all.
never.
Nah, not when you're in the
Humbling.
classroom with the young people. I mean, you're in there with the little ones, and that
Oh, Lord.
Exactly.
I've been in the classroom with that age group. So God bless you. That's
Thank you. I'm going to need it. Thank you.
yes, yeah, every day, all day. I feel that.
Every day.
Yes, indeed.
Indeed.
So a lot of times, Queen Heroin, we ask people about their introduction into hip hop, but I'm curious to know about your introduction into the educational space and how
Yeah.
did that come about, and was hip hop a part of that? Yeah, I just love to hear that part of that story.
Absolutely. It's a great question. I've never really had it asked in that order. It's usually the reverse. The reverse. My mom is a retired educator. And I truly believe that home is the first space for education, period. When you talk about just learning and what that means, right? So my exposure to what learning is and was, and seeing it firsthand, from my mother and my father, just in different ways, lessons and belief systems and values that they taught, generally speaking, culturally, just ways of life. And then more formally, when my mom did go back and taught, professionally, and I got introduced directly from there. It was literally like a summer situation. I was really young. I was like a teenager, basically my late teens. And she was like, "Look, you want this summer job? Like, what are you doing?" And I took it, and I worked for the summer, which turned into a teaching assistant position for a couple of years. And then that evolved into my first real position as a teacher or educator. And I was teaching pre-K in Mount Vernon, which is full circle where I am right now, again, in a different capacity. But I taught pre-K. Um, Shout out to Link by Link. Anyone who is looking for a very warm family home environment, that was my first spot. It's like a business. It's not like, it is a business, Black owned business as well. And so I started there. It was a nursery downstairs. Upstairs they had a little pre-K section, but it was a real school for pre-K students. And I did that for a couple of years, and then I went back to where I was a teaching assistant. After I graduated, with my mom was like, "What are you doing?" And she was like, "Okay, are you stepping it up with this? Like, where are we going?" And so I went back to school. At the time, I had my undergrad in English language studies, which that's an interesting story because I was like failing out of visual arts, which I teach now. And I ended up going back to school for my degree in general and special education. And so I ended up teaching special ed formally, more up north. Yeah. And I did that for years. And that was like where I gained a great deal of experience. But all of the different classrooms from the pre-K through on up to now, as much as you know and you learn as an educator, you realize that there's still more to learn. Even up to today, I had a situation. It was like, interesting. But I think the difference is after a certain amount of years, you're able to kind of look back and assess and self-assess, which takes a little bit of time because initially you're trying to get a grasp on just how to do this, how to organize, how to lesson plan. So once you've done all that, that higher order thinking at that point is more self-reflective, and you can quickly just be like, "Oh, that went well. This didn't. This is why it didn't, and this is how I can approach it differently." That I think that takes time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Almas, anything hit you? I know you're big on education.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of how I got involved in hip hop. I mean, in education as well too. I took a class. I was like an assistant, and I went in the after school program, and that's what kind of like sparked my love You know what I'm saying? And the teachers was like, man, you have a natural connection with the youth. Like, how is that possible? I'm with them all day and they don't open up to me like that. So I heard that from like multiple teachers, and I was like, okay, I need to just try to pursue this. So very similar. And my undergrad is in English teaching, you know what I'm saying, in the urban teacher program. So it's just resonating with me, man. Like, yeah, that's just amazing. That's dope. Thank you for sharing that with us. That's dope.
Yeah, thank you. So on the hip hop side, how has hip hop, or has it, I assume it has, but how has hip hop influenced how you interact with kids in the classroom?
Oh, wow. So many different ways. I mean, I think at this point, and I would say for the last 4 years now, there's been a conscious effort to make a relationship visible between hip hop and education. And again, that's how, I must know we know each other through the relationship between hip hop and education as a direct correlation. So, that's been a little bit more recent, but I think again, every classroom, I've had classrooms where I traditionally don't go in and say, "Oh, hey, I rhyme." I don't do that unless the course dictates that, and we're in there for a hip hop education course. Then that's a different thing. And even then, that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm an MC or I'm a DJ or producer. Maybe I'm just there representative of the culture, etc. You know what I mean? So it could be a hip hop education or hip hop appreciation course. So you can't necessarily assume. But the students, my kids, they're so intuitive that I've been in different schools in different places at different grade levels, and they've been like, Miss Smith, what do you do? And I'm like, I teach you. And they're like, nah, like you do something else. What do you sing? What else do you do? Because I don't know, Miss Smith, it's something different. I don't know. So I've had that happen where they just hit it on the head without me saying anything. I had a student in a job, which I won't mention, it's not my current job, where I almost lost my job. This was before I was teaching. Formerly, I was a teaching assistant. And the student knew. He knew the Lyricist Lounge project. And he was like, oh my gosh, yo, wait, that's like my favorite joint. Can you spit it? Can you spit the verse for me? And I think he was like maybe 8th or 9th grade. And I was like, okay. I was also young. So I was like, yeah, all right, cool. Spit it. It's cool. But then he'd hit me up like every day, like, yo, could you spit it? He'd be outside the classroom. And my boss at the time, an administrator, was like, yo, can I meet with you? And I was like, sure. And he was like, what is the nature of your relationship with him? As if to allude that something was happening beyond that was not professional. Wow. And I was like, so outside of here, I'm an artist. He happens to know that because he's a fan of, the music and things that I do. And that's all it is. And he was just like, okay, well, you need to be mindful of that, of the boundary. Which to an extent I understood the boundary aspect, because it did get to the point was like he was so hyped like every day. But at the same time, that goes back to, what Imas was saying in the sense of connection. There was a direct connection that he could not understand as an administrator. Readily assumed it was something else. And honestly, it affected the relationship with the kid because he felt so offended after that. So, I mean, it's just been in different ways. I've had kids ask me to freestyle for their birthday who did know that I rhymed and I did. It depends on the context and where I am. Some of my students from Chicago, where I taught, they follow me on Instagram, and I was like, yo, y'all can't follow me till I'm not here. And then when I wasn't there, I was like, all right, y'all can follow me.
Right.
That's dope.
Depending on where.
Have you ever had a kid that was just misbehaving again and again, and you start thinking like battle thoughts against him?
Never, but I have never.
No, okay.
Never.
Right.
That's not usually where my mind goes. But I have had one incident. I did have one incident where this was also Chicago, where I taught art there as well, visual arts there as well. And so it was my high school students, and I would have them critique at the end of their project. So this is kind of the part of also the awareness of public speaking. So it wasn't just like creating an art piece. It was like getting up, presenting it, understanding the language
Yeah.
of what they were creating, why, etc., and having the audience be there supportive, getting them to understand like there's layers to this, and also these are skills they need to take outside of the classroom. Anyway, so he gets up there. I guess he was nervous, obviously, which most of them were. But as they did it more, they got, more comfortable, which was part of the whole reason of having them do it. And he said something sassy, like, all right, whatever, I'll just freestyle this. And I was like, you ain't ready for that. Like get your notes, like do what you need to do. You ain't ready for that. And he was like, oh, Smith, whatever, I got this. I was like, all right, freestyle then. Like, let's do your thing. And he was like, for real? And so he tried to go in, and then I just ate him up. I just had to teach him a lesson. And I just, and he was like, damn, all right, Smith, all right. You know what I'm saying? All right, Smith, you made your point. So I think that was the only time it was ever a challenge. I had one student who was spitting Lauren's verse from the score, and that's one of my favorite verses. And she just started spitting it, and I just spit it with her, and she just couldn't believe, and we just in sync, like she knew the verse from top to bottom, and so do
That's
I.
dope.
And we were just in unison, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, that's crazy, Smith." And I'd actually never had her as a student, but she would always be around me,
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So
Yeah.
That's amazing.
How
That's
do you
amazing.
from my experiences and just looking at statistics, the educational system in this country seems pretty broken. And obviously, there are great teachers like you, and there's great schools doing great things, but there are so many schools that are really struggling, and kids that aren't getting, the type of engagement that they need to get. So, where do you see, or how do you see hip hop, or do you see hip hop as part of the answer? And if so, like how, on like a systemic level, how can what you learn or what you know about hip hop be
sure.
kind of used across the board to engage kids?
It's a great question.
That's a great one.
I agree with you in regards to the brokenness on so many levels, which is it's real. It's very unfortunate. It's sad. It's frustrating as an educator, as a parent, um, as a woman of color, even. You know what I mean? Seeing so many children demographically who look like they could be my child in systems that are just not supporting them, and then seeing systems that are supporting them, but because of the lack of whatever funding, well, I wouldn't even say teacher, that's a whole nother part of the political part, but there's so many layers to it.
Yeah.
What I will say, as far as hip hop goes, I definitely see and believe that it can be a instrumental tool to help and assist and support and engage and produce on multiple levels. I think, again, I am Mas, our relationship, shout out to, the Universal Hip Hop Museum, shout out to Martha Diaz,
Martha Diaz,
shout
facts.
out to Hip Hop Education Center, and,
Yes.
and similar organizations that are, utilizing hip hop and education. Shout out to John Robinson. I mean, there's so many people
J. Ross.
individually, J. Ross. I mean, as a collective. Shout out to my team at Next Level. Which is a U.S. exchange program that fosters relationships with different countries, but using hip hop as a connective tool, educative tool to a large extent, but not so much about teaching, but sharing knowledge, more so that. So I think that it's happening in pockets. And I think that those pockets are growing because when you look at the age, right, of educators, so you have whole generations like myself, like yourselves, who have not an awareness of hip hop, but who have come up in the culture of hip hop. And so this is who we are. This is the embodiment of who we are, what we know. It's the fabric of who we are, how we speak, our language, like all the things, right? And then you happen to say, okay, well, I'm going to push into education, whether consciously to make a decision, or you know someone who was in there, or you got inspired, whatever it is, you're now in that field. So now you're in the field, either consciously making an effort to say, let me use hip hop as an educational tool, or you're just in the field as someone in the culture of hip hop, because this is what you've grown into and
Yeah.
you know. And so there's that dichotomy, there's that balance in who you are as a person, and therefore as an educator, bringing that to conversation and interacting with students, so you have the ability to connect in a different way that our teachers didn't. So there's a shift that's happening, I think, on a conscious level, and then there's a shift that's happening on an unconscious level, just because of who we are as educators pushing in to these spaces, right? Then the other thing is curriculum, so you have curriculum that's consciously being developed, that's making an impact and a difference. And it's just, again, funding, pushing in, getting more, spending the time to put curriculum together. There's that part of it. Then there's the part of just connection. When I was in Chicago, I used to shop at Dollar General, which is like Dollar Tree. And I'd be out there sometimes getting like my what is it, like napkins or toiletries or whatever. I'm not paying $5 to do X, Y, and Z when I can get it. Plus, it's on the way home. So I would get my nice stuff from Mariano's, get my my nice meat, you know what I'm saying, my whatever, my fish. And then I'm like, yo, I'm gonna make that stop at
that was King
General.
Drive, wasn't it? When that King Drive.
So hello. So I'm gonna do bang bang before I hit, Lakeshore. I'm gonna do that. And so I would see students in Mariano's sometimes. And then I would see students in Dollar General. So it's like there's that part of the community and environment where they're seeing me. So when I tell them there's a sense of connection, I mean, I shouldn't say it, but there was a parent who was like, oh, wow, can you kind of help out? And maybe some days if I'm stuck, help bring my kid to school. Want me to tell them no? Like, as a parent like me that, maybe kind of need some support, technically not supposed to, but at the end of the day, I'm like, all right, cool. Nobody knows, drop them off. I'm not there anymore. And shout out to my, I love them out there. But she appreciated that so much. So when you talk about caring about the kids, this is not something that I just say. This is something that I exhibit through the way I educate, through the way that I live. And hip hop is a part of that, right? So I think it happens on so many different levels and directions and ways. And I just feel like it just requires more and more of it. And I also feel like hip hop is the one thing that I've had students. I had this student, Caucasian, one of my cute little white boy students. And he used to be like, what's up, Mama Smith? I mean, I'm brown. What's up, Mama Smith?
Yeah.
That's what's up.
No sense of separation in his mind. And there was a real sense of connection with me, genuinely. Have kids who didn't have nothing to eat. They knew how to microwave. I'm warming up food if I have a little extra for them. Talk hip hop. I mean, so I just feel like there's so many layers, but I do feel like it definitely connects all of us, regardless of what. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's dope.
That's amazing.
Super dope.
It just took me back to what her brother, when your brother was on here. He said the same. He showed he brilliant, just like you. Y'all both. It runs in the family. So he was just saying how when he constructs, and I was like, man, I never even thought about that before. He constructs his lesson plans. He looks at his lesson plans like he looks at a set list. And I was like, it's just so simple, but it blew my mind. Like, he's like, so when you connect in the set list, you don't start with the slow song. You start with something that's going to grab the attention. He said, that's how I look at my lesson plans. And I was like, yo, that's brilliant. Like, and so it just makes that
he ain't never told me that
skill.
one.
Oh, for real?
Oh man, he's holding out.
That sounds so Breeze like, and he is genius, and that makes total sense. I was having that conversation earlier, just the connection between hip hop and performing, right, and the classroom as an instructor, and there's just so many similarities down to time, as you talk about sets. You might be on stage for 40 minutes. that's a class. That's class time.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So what does that transitional come in like? What does the exit ticket look like?
Hmm.
Whereas, all of it is so relative to that
Yeah.
engagement and them getting it, that aha moment. And on stage, when you perform and everybody not catching every line unless they
Right.
really, really
Right.
understands and know word for word. If they seen
Yeah.
you for
Yeah.
the first time, you may say one bomb line and they're like, oh, you know how
Right.
that goes in the audience, right? Same thing with the kids. You're gonna see them light up if they got the
Hmm.
concept of
Yeah.
something new that you're
Absolutely.
hitting them with, and they're like, oh. So
Yeah.
there's still that illumination that happens, that new
Mhm.
light bulb that goes off in the mind. Literally, some new
Yeah.
neurotransmitters like, ooh, that was dope.
Yeah.
So there's so much that's similar that happens. Yeah.
That's super
That's
dope.
amazing. That's,
Uh,
man, fire, Joe.
yeah. Before I ask the
Yeah.
next question, I want to bring in profound. Profound, anything sticking out to you or anything you want to ask about?
Yeah, actually, yeah, the sister went right where I wrote this down. I wanted to ask because, of course, you're an MC. Like, what is the difference that you see in the children today versus when we were children and in school?
Yeah. How long we got? Oh Lord. I'm gonna be real with
Because
you.
I
As
know
much
your
as I
perspective.
love
I know
them,
your perspective is different because you an MC. You're not just an educator. You know what I mean? Like
right.
it's like a double. It's the double-edged sword educator, really, because
Thank you.
we educators as an MC. You on that professional level as a teacher too. So yeah, I want to know what you think the difference is today.
That's such a great question. Profound. I think the initial thought that came to my head, and again, I love my students. I love the kids, even the ones who drive them crazy. I love them. But there's definitely a different aspect of respect. Whereas for us, again, growing up, it was kind of like you didn't get out of pocket like that. There was a different kind of level of understanding. This is your teacher. You come to school, whether you like it or not, you do what you got to do. For the most part, you keep them moving, right? Because you go home and if your parents, I know for me, my parents West Indian, like they wasn't hearing that, like it would have been a problem. So, you know, um, the respect level very, very different. Some kids kind of just automatically very okay, yes, come in, they got it. Other kids gonna test you, and then you got the ones that are in between. I think the advantage of being an MC and a lyricist, I'm very quick with it, with my mouth, with my tongue. Like I'm like a sword with them, like liquid sword, straight up. So if they say something, I'm so quick with the response
I love it.
that they're like, sometimes, and I have observations, of course, and things like that. But I feel like who I am as an educator, who I am as an MC, who I am as a woman too, not to get into that part, but that's the real part. I think that sometimes that works to the benefit in a sense of very nurturing and understanding and then sometimes you're going to get tested because the
Mm,
kids will be, oh, you're not a man, because there's a whole, and that's a whole nother part of it. Our brothers, as you all know, they are also educators. And I think even in the house dynamic, it's like growing up, if my mom said something, I might push a little bit more, not to be disrespectful, but a little, come on, ma, let me go sleep a little later and watch this show, daddy come in, it ain't even, he's not even saying
Not
nothing.
happening.
It's just a look. It's like and I'm like, oh shit, let me put on my clothes and go to bed. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm not even trying to watch the honeymoon. Is this a wrap? Like, okay, got it. You know what I'm saying? So it's a different situation. A different situation. And I think that happens in the class too. So being very quick and witty with that, and
yeah.
also having a very strong voice where there's a certain sense of command. They can hear me having certain styles. And even that still takes practice management wise, depending on the size of the class and who you're dealing with. But that tongue being, because I chop them down and I don't feel no ways about it. I will. Because at the end of the day, they know I'm coming from a place of love.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So like when my students are lining up, if they come in too aggressive at the door, I'm like, yo, fall back, yo. I'll talk to them like that.
Yeah.
Yo, fall back, yo. What are you doing? Like, where are you going like that? Like, bring that back down there. Sometimes I'll have them do a little jog. Yo, jog down there. You got energy? jog over there by them double doors and then come see me. That's how I talk to them. That's how I talk to the old ones. Real talk. I talk to
Yeah.
them like that because that's what they need. That's what they
Yeah.
understand. You
Yeah.
know? And so it's not like I'm trying to feel like, oh, I'm fitting in and trying to be cool with your little language. And they'll test you. Some like today in the class, one of my students, middle school, I think it was like third or fourth grade, and he's like drawing something. And he was like, yo, that look kind of sus. I was like, word, you know what's sus? That you playing with your grade. Like, let's go. That's sus. Your grade about to look suspect. So I talk to them very, that's a prime example. I'm being so genuine. That's how I talk to them. Yeah,
Yeah.
your grade about to be sus. You know it's gonna be sus when I have to pick that phone call up and make a call to the house. That's gonna be sus because you're gonna be looking sideways. And then I'm West Indian, and I have a lot of kids who are West Indian, so I can get into it real quick. Call on the phone, yeah, mommy, look at what I call. You know what I'm saying? So they see all kind of. They're not ready. They're not ready. They're not
You the
ready.
cheat code. She's the
I
cheat
know
code.
just enough Spanish. You know what I'm saying?
Yo.
Loco, yo, siéntate. Like they're like, whoa, who is this lady?
Sit down.
They're like,
Sit down.
hey, cállate. They're like, yo, she's wild. Trabajo, do your work. I'm not playing with you. So I know just enough. Yeah.
Yeah.
I use the tongue. I make sure I use my words to connect with them.
Man, teacher of the year right here.
I don't know
what
about that, but I be on it. I'm crazy. I'm crazy with them.
That's great. I'm sure they respect you for that, for sure.
Yeah, there's a lot of love there.
That's so dope.
Earlier in the conversation, I want to make sure I heard this right. Did you say that you flunked the topic that you now teach?
Correct.
Can you tell us more about that? That's fascinating.
Sure. So, I mean, I was going to school. I had challenges with it in high school. I had definite challenges in college, which was visual arts. That's what I was taking up. And I got to this point within my undergrad degree where we would have independent studies. That's what they were called. Right. And so it was like the whole semester was creating, basically a portfolio where you focused on one specific concept, whatever directive.
Yeah.
And then you had to present it. And so I'd present what I had to present and what I had been working on all semester. And I would get shot down every time to the point that I got to the point, and I was the only, there was one other African American, one other brown man. His work was really unfrontable. I have to say that. He did like graphic design, and through a friend of mine, I befriended him and vice versa. His work was, it was phenomenal.
Yeah.
I will say that. I was still also trying to find my own as far as my visual voice, I guess, if you will. But I still felt like the work I was putting in hours. My main work, my main medium is acrylic. So I'm a painter. That's like really my concentration, and I do mixed media art as well. But like acrylic paint, I'm a painter, and so I had all this work I was presenting, and they were like, I was getting like D's and F's. And I was like, what do you want me to paint then? If you're having an issue with me, with what I'm doing, what I'm producing, then give me feedback. Give me constructive feedback. But failing me, giving me D's, telling me it's doodling, like that's not constructive. And see, as an educator now, I can see how poor they were as educators, right? Just in the way they approached what they felt I was doing wrong, whatever that was. I had a teacher as well who taught, it was called, it was a movie class. It was independent film. Also in the realm of art, was one of the courses I had to take. And I was commuting at the time because I went to school in Long Island. I was commuting. And prior to that, I was living on campus. And so I really was kind of late all the time. Like traffic on the LIE was crazy. No excuse. I was late often for her class. until she read my papers.
Mhm.
And she used to try to sun me. She really used to try to play me like I was not educated. I had no like, oh, you're
Mm.
just messing around in my class, till she read them and she was just like, what are you doing here? Then it was more, then she started giving me books to read. Oh, you should read this and challenge yourself.
Oh,
You're so
wow.
intelligent. I'm like, you know what I'm saying? Like, because I was genuinely just kind of having a struggle with the commute.
Yeah.
But yeah, and what's the only thing that saved me? A really good friend of mine who he was actually doing an English language studies major as well. And he was like, yo, you should submit some of your poetry.
Mm.
Mhm.
And they'd have contests and things like that connected to the English department. And long story short, I did. And the head of the English department was like, how can I get you to change your major from visual arts
Wow.
to English language studies?
Mm.
And I was like, let's see, FFDD. How do I sign up? Because at that point I was like, if I don't do something, I'm gonna fail out of
Yeah.
college,
Mhm.
period.
Yeah.
And so I switched over. It ended up actually delaying me about a whole year, maybe almost a year and a half. So what would have taken me four, the traditional four, ended up taking me like five, almost 5.5. I just went ham. Summers. I mean, I remember literally one day crying, like real tears. And Breeze was like, he's such a good brother. All my brothers good. He's rubbing my back. He's like, it's all right, man. You gonna be all right. I was taking like Spanish. I was in like 5 schools just to finish the one. I was at Hunter, Westchester Community, Lehman. I was taking like a course in mad different Nassau Community College just
Wow.
to gather the credits
Yeah.
Yeah.
that I was behind in, since I had just switched the major to finish.
Mhm.
But you do what you got to do,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and I did. But thank God for that opportunity. And Dr. Hicks is actually her name, and that's how it happened. It was literally default. Like I had to do that, and luckily for me, as an MC and a poet and a lyricist, I had that background, and
Yeah.
and that helped tremendously to make the transition smooth.
That's cool. That's inspiring, to go up with those challenges and people that are not,
It was
engaging and
interesting.
supporting you. Yeah. And,
It was
and
in, listen, man. There was a dude who he had Oreo cookies. I'll never forget it. It was an exhibit. He had like Oreo cookies, a row of them. Actually, the guy who was helping me out at the time, um, he almost stepped on the cookies. He's like, "Oh, that's his project. I didn't realize it was just cookies on the floor." And the guy got an A. He got an A.
Whoa.
It was like, intergalactic thought processing, some nonsense. I'm like, those are Oreos. Like, where's milk? Like, at least put a glass of milk. Do some extra stuff with it. You just got cookies on the floor. Come on, man. Make a doll, make Cookie Monster or something. Put it.
Yes.
I'd be impressed if you
You
did
know what I
some
mean?
stuff like cookies. A
Build an
row of
Empire State
cookies.
Building with some
Right. I could
Oreos.
have done
Like
that.
something. Right.
right.
Hey, I can go to Stop and Shop right now. Come get this egg. Y'all playing. But that's what they wanted, so
That's crazy. But
yeah.
it's inspiring that you're back teaching
Thank
that
you.
same thing, to
Indeed.
younger people, and I assume doing it in a much more supportive way than what you
Mhm.
face. So that's really
I
dope.
tried. If I
Yeah.
shut them down too, like today, kid was like, "Oh, is that good?" I was like, "No, it's not. This is why. This is why. This is
Right.
how we
Yeah. Yeah.
can improve this."
Right.
Right, but you got to be honest. And I don't traditionally come that hard at them.
Yeah.
It's just the personality is a little bit older, a little
Yeah.
shock treatment.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But you got to be genuine with what
Yeah.
it is, and if you're gonna say something and make a critique, then you better have a legitimate, some real reason to back it up, so that that person knows how to navigate. You can't just tell
Yeah.
somebody they're lost.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, now where do I go? How do I
There you go.
get to this destination?
Yeah.
Thank you for
Yeah.
letting me know that. How do I now get to where I need to get?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Certainly.
Absolutely.
Well, there's some art that you have, some music that you have coming out. I want to get into that, but before, I want to ask you a couple fun questions as we
Okay.
transition into the music.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'll talk about this all day. You see that?
Oh no,
right?
you're good.
My bad.
That's
That's
what
what we
we
do
want
here.
you to do. That's what we want your
Yeah.
fans to hear. So, all right. So, just a couple questions. The first question is: great book or great movie?
Ooh, I'm gonna be honest with you right now, because the time I'm gonna go with that great movie, and then on
Yeah,
the beach I'll do the great book. So right now I'm with the movie on that, and that's if
yeah.
I make it through, y'all. Usually 10, 15, I'm passing that.
Do you pick up the movie like the next day or whenever you get time and like watch it in segments?
I do,
I
I
do that,
do,
yeah.
I do, I
Me
do, I
too.
do.
I
Not
rarely
as
watch a movie
good,
in one
but it's
sitting.
like you gotta do what you gotta do. It's
Yeah,
like a sandwich after. It's not
Uh,
the same, but you're gonna finish it. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, yeah. Totally, totally.
Yeah.
All right, next one. Streaming or physical release?
I'm gonna say physical. I
Yeah.
still love that tangible, and I'll be really transparent. There's still so much that I need to learn about streaming and that platform.
Mm,
So I'm gonna go with physical for sure.
physical. All
I'm
right.
old school that way.
Yeah, I love it. Same here. Vinyl,
that's n-
tape, CD, vinyl.
Vinyl. That would be
mm.
my go-to if I had out of all of those
Yeah,
options. I would prefer vinyl.
right on. I'm
I
actually
even
about
like the
to.
scratchiness of it as it
Yeah,
gets.
No,
yeah. Totally.
yeah, I was just gonna say that's not old school. That's timeless right there.
Yeah,
We gotta
yeah,
switch out on that. I don't like that old school. No,
that's
that's
true.
timeless.
That's true. I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that. Positive
Yeah.
affirmation.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
All right.
absolutely.
This next question comes from my 6-year-old son. I asked him for
Cool.
a this or that question, and
Cool.
he said roller coaster or water slide.
Oh, water
Ooh,
slide all day.
Water slide.
I
All
am
right.
so scared of heights. I have
Oh
a major
yeah.
fear of heights. So I used to do some roller coasters here and there. And my poor child is like, damn, mom, like, I'm gonna have to send the dog on it with her because I'm like, I'm trying to give you a partner to hang out with, baby, on the roller coaster, but it ain't gonna be me. But water slide,
facts.
yes. I love water. I swim, and I'm always down for a water slide.
Okay. Right on. That's
That's
dope.
what's
That's
up.
dope. All right. The
Hmm.
last question, more open ended. So we got a pot of money here. You don't have to
Okay.
teach. You don't have to teach for a year, 6 months, or whatever, and you can write any book you want to write. What would you write?
Mm, that's a dope
Because I
question.
think about this at least once or twice a week. So I definitely fantasize about that possibility.
Yeah.
I actually would really like to write a book. I think at this stage, I'd be torn. And again, I really do think about this. It would either be something like memoir like, you know,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
or something like hip hop curriculum,
Yeah.
like, because I would love to do both. But if I could just kind of write any book, maybe it would be more memoir.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, maybe
That's
more
dope.
memoir to
I
start.
like
Yeah,
that. Dope. 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 Well, let's get into this. Thank you for playing along.
absolutely. Thank you. Thank your son for me. That was my favorite question.
Yeah,
Tell
that
him.
was my favorite. I was like, man, that's a good question, son. Good job. I'm gonna ask him every
Yes,
Thursday night
indeed,
now for a question.
indeed.
Yeah. So jumping into the music, you have. So for those that have not figured it out yet, most people know that know you know, but you're part of Juggaknots, which is an actual family crew. Do you want
Correct.
to introduce or not introduce, but tell the people about that group and who else is in it?
Yeah. Shout out to my brothers, my actual brothers, Breeze Bruin and B Slim, aka Kev Fever. He has so many aliases. AKA Slim, aka Buddy Slim, all the same person. And shout out to DJ Boo as well. But yeah, Juggernauts, that's the home team. And I mean, that's family. It's been
Yeah.
such an honor to grow into my role within the group. For those who do know, Juggernauts really initially was more just my brothers, and then over time it evolved, and I became part of that. I was always,
Yeah.
I think, observing. I was always around and part of it. I just wasn't formally a part of it. So that happened, I would say, I think that transition started to happen like early college,
Okay.
when we were doing, again, that Lyricist Lounge project, that
Yeah.
first one, shout out to Lyricist Lounge. Um, that song, Wait, when we, Indelible MCs and that
Yeah.
coining of Indelible MCs, that was, I think, the real kind of like stamp where it was like, okay,
Yeah.
yeah, she's doing some things. All right, let's
Right.
bring her along, formally. And it kind of
Yeah.
just happened organically at that point. We were performing it a lot. That was the time of like Wetlands and SOBs and Tramps.
Mm-hmm.
and Nuyorican, and all of that was just commonplace. That was our regulars. And so
Yeah.
more performance came, a little bit more experience for me. Um, and then it just started to make sense. We didn't put out a formal album together until Use Your Confusion,
Hmm.
and the re-release that Who Makes It Hot and Projections is on, where those are the only songs I'm featured on that project. Those were things that were kind of in the cut or happened around that time, but they weren't on that project. So um, Kev was pretty adamant about putting it on there when we had the opportunity to do the re-release. So yeah, that's my relationship as far as just Juggernaut. Shout out to my brother,
Yeah.
and again DJ Boo. But as far as like new material, there's definitely some things in the works.
Yeah. What can you tell us
That's what's up.
about that?
Yeah, I'm really excited. I mean, with education as wonderful and all the great stories as it sounds, there is a challenging part, which is time.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
anyone who's an educator
Mm.
understands the realness of, I often say instead of rhymes, I'm writing lesson plans. That's kind of like what I say often because that's just the truth. And so I wasn't sure if this second project was going to happen. Metamorphosis happened, and I'm proud of that project. I think it was important just to gain my own voice. That was a big part of it. I also had a lot to say and express, and I wanted to challenge myself to see if I could do a solo album separate from my brothers at the time, not for any reasons of frustration or anger, like, oh, breaking up. It was more like, can you do this by yourself as a confirmation for my own identity? And I thought that would only make it stronger for whatever else I would bring to the table.
Yeah.
I think it did. But after that, it took so much out between being a parent,
Yeah.
teacher full time, that it really comes down to time. Sometimes I'm
Yeah.
writing at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, and I got to wake up at like
Mm.
5, 6, and
Right.
that's how I get inspired. So this new project, I'm excited just because I didn't know if it would happen. And I'm excited because there's some really dope people who I'm working with. Shout out to Elize, another amazing MC. Shout out to Pretty Bully. There's a feature with Pretty Bully. Shout out to Fever More Fire. Shout out to Neff Beats. Like, there's just there's one that I don't even want. Well, I leaked it on the gram.
Yeah, I
I was
saw that.
really humbled, man. Havoc.
Yeah, Havoc, Mob Deep.
It's surreal. So I'm really
Oh.
excited on so many levels, and you know, Silverback. Like, there's people who and then there's people who you don't know that you
Yeah.
need to know.
Yeah.
In my
Like
opinion,
that.
I
Yeah.
think they're extremely talented. MP, who I worked with on the EP that I put out, the space between things. So, you know, I'm the type of person, if I hear something and it's amazing to me, then it's amazing. I mean, the fact that I have a name on there that was willing to work with me, like
Yeah.
Havoc, is so humbling and surreal. However, in conjunction with that, I think it's so important if you hear something that's amazing, even if it's not a name that's known, it's important to do that so that that name can be more known, right?
Yeah.
Talent is talent. So
Definitely.
it's a combination of both. And I'm sure there's a few I'm not mentioning. Breeze is on there.
Yeah.
You must
Yeah.
be getting to mention. Oh, Breeze is on there.
Yeah.
He's also on the feature. Shout out to B Slim, my other brother. He also produced a track on there. So
Okay.
there's treats.
Yeah.
Um, it's just in the midst. And again, pardon anyone who I didn't mention, as it's still in its kind of developmental stages. But there's some things happening here.
That's great. Is there
That's what's up.
a time table on that?
Yeah, so there's a timetable at this point. It's looking like early fall. It's looking like
Okay.
early fall. We're kind of like midway through. There's still some things that needs to happen, writing, recording, and so I'm
Sure.
I'm really looking forward to the summer to
Yeah.
take advantage of getting back into the studio. Shout out to Lion Face Studios, which is where I often work and record. So um, I'm hoping to like wrap up the loose ends over this summer and have it ready for you guys by
Yeah.
early. early to mid fall at the latest.
Well,
Sweet.
we can't wait.
Me
Sweet.
either.
Yeah.
Me
Yo.
either. I'm excited. It's got to go down. So
Yeah.
I'm excited about it. Yeah.
That's great. That's great,
Mhm.
man. Yeah, I was excited when we were talking before we went live. I was very excited to hear you say you had a project coming.
Yeah,
So
man. And I'm
yeah.
still trying to rope a couple people in. So to
Okay.
see,
Yeah.
like Poison Pen. I don't know, that's
Okay.
premature to mention,
Oh,
Dope.
but we did have a conversation
All right.
and he was like, Heroin for you, let's do it. So I'm
Yeah.
hoping that, that'll happen because we've known each other for so long. That's
Right.
fam. So I think it'll be dope. There's a lot of exciting things that are in the works. In the
Yeah.
works.
Dope. Dope. Dope.
sweet, sweet.
Yeah. Well, Queen Heroin, the last thing we like to do on this
Yes.
show is go out celebrating some classic albums and artists that we know you
Awesome.
appreciate. So we'll have some fun with this. And let I
Cool.
Miles Profound any last second buzzer beater questions you want to get off?
Yeah, I'm.
No, I just want to
Yeah,
give
when
us some.
she's just.
Go ahead, Io.
Oh no, go ahead, bro. Go ahead, bro. I've been talking the most. Go ahead,
No,
bro.
I just want to give props on Return of the G because that's banging in my ear right now. But Jesus
Go right
Christ.
ahead.
Oh man, let me
What?
say this profound. Thank you for mentioning that because there is someone I need to shout out. So, thank you, who's a producer who did Return of the G, and he
Mm.
actually did about half of Metamorphosis. He passed away last year,
Oh no.
and
Mm,
it was like it's
Oh
still very
man.
surreal.
Yeah.
And I just want to
wow,
acknowledge him because hadn't it been for him, that album, I don't think it would
wow.
have happened because he literally did half of that. And Return of the G is a song that when people think of that album, they think of Return of the G. They
Yeah.
think of that song when they hear Metamorphosis. So, rest in peace to Thank You. So talented and
Mm.
just so grateful for all the work and dedication. So thank you for bringing that up. Absolutely.
Yeah, rest in peace, rest in power, man.
Yes,
Rest
indeed.
in beats. For
Yeah.
real.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, I always ask this question to MCs that I look up to. It was funny because I was guest lecturing and Queen Heroin was in the room. And then he was like, why don't you bust a rhyme? Bro, I was so nervous, bro. I messed up, jacked up the rhyme, bro. I was sweating like a mother. I was like, dude, what rhyme I'm gonna say? Queen Heroin is in here, bro. I jacked it up profound.
Got
I
me
was like,
blushing. No, you
yo.
didn't. He did an amazing job. He
I
did a
was
great
like,
job.
yo.
He did a great job.
But the question that I want to ask you, the question that I want to ask you is,
Yeah.
I ask all the MCs that I look up to, I
Thank
ask
you.
them what would you say to artists or MC this? What, because a lot of young people ask me this all the time. I was like, man, what can I do to develop? So I always ask the MCs that I look up to, what can an artist do to like become a stronger MC or a stronger writer in your opinion? Like what do you think?
That's a great question. My first initial thought was read, right?
Mhm.
Yes.
So again, not to bring it back to the class, but it's just real. So you read more, you build your language, build your comprehension, build different skills, and those can always be used and are used to help your writing. I would encourage reading. I would encourage reading things that you like. I would encourage reading things that you may not know anything about, but
Mm.
maybe doing brief readings on that. Maybe it just intrigues you, it's interested. And so you don't have to necessarily read a whole novel, but maybe you read an article. I would encourage when I was really working on freestyling and stuff like that in college, I had a rhyming dictionary. I encourage you to get a rhyming dictionary. I think it's a helpful resource and tool. I don't really use it anymore, but I definitely used to use it
Mm.
just just to help with my, you know,
Yeah.
just to help with freestyling sometimes.
Yeah.
I encourage you to get a dictionary. Everything is so digital now. Get a tangible dictionary.
Yeah.
Use it just to flip through. I used to use that too for freestyling to practice. Shout out to Gypsies. We would
Yeah.
just like be like, oh, cadence. And then we'd have to spit that out. And
Right.
oh, hypothermia. You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
I feel like a physical dictionary, physical rhyming, and also, just Right. And one of the things my brothers used to do, I used to play, Who Got the Props, instrumental. Shout out to Evil D. I used to, in the whole camp, I'd listen to instrumentals and practice my verses. And my brother one day was like, Kev was like, yo, if you can't spit faster than to a certain tempo, then you're not ready. And so I encourage you to challenge yourself at different BPMs, slower, medium, fast. I encourage you to rhyme over beats that have lyrics, because sometimes when you're on stage and you're performing, you can get tripped up if something throws you off, like auditory wise, like whether it's audience or whatever. So you got to be able to keep going even if something distracts you. So sometimes hearing the lyrics, it's like you're a drummer, like doing two things at one time. So
Yeah.
I think they're different tools, but I would start with the reading, the writing, and then the practicing, of your craft, for sure. Shout out to everyone in the in the chat. By the way, someone shouted out Bobito. I'll
Yeah.
just say Bobito goes way back. He doesn't even call me Heroin. He calls me Peridot, which is my actual
Oh
name.
wow.
And much love. I've known him since I was very young, and he was also very instrumental in getting things off as far as Juggaknots go. He was, the project that was initially with my brothers was on Fondulum
Right.
Records. So shout out to Bobito.
Yes.
Even though I haven't seen him forever, so much love always for him, and I'm sure the whole team would reiterate that. So I just want to acknowledge that question, and
Yeah,
thanks
no
for
doubt.
everyone for showing up in the chat.
And
Yeah.
and the last thing I'm gonna say, that's interesting that you said the dictionary. I don't know if you all seen Karis One's documentary City Lights. He
No,
dropped like $500-$600 in London for a dictionary, bro. Like,
yeah,
Wow.
this is what I'm
count the
saying. That's how,
money out.
yeah.
I was like, yo, are you
See,
serious?
what is
I'm
the
like,
movie with
wow.
what's
It's
it with
called City Lights. It's on YouTube.
Oh, I'm gonna check it out. I
Yeah.
was thinking though of Denzel Washington, where he plays. It's like a biblical thing, and the Bible becomes
Oh
like
yes, Book of Eli.
Book of
Eli.
Eli.
That's my
So
Mm.
book.
when you
That's
think
my
about
movie.
that sense of a tangible book,
Mm-hmm.
and to lyricists, that's
Yes.
like the equivalent of the Bible in a sense. Not to get
Mm-hmm.
into religious political things, but
Sure.
all the words are there,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I definitely would go back to the tangible things, and the
That's dope.
practice, just practice, to know your voice, strengthen your voice, and be able to
Mm-hmm.
manipulate your voice.
Yes. That's good. Thank you so much. I'm done. We could keep going, but I know for time purposes, I'm
Indeed. Yes,
good. I'm
I want to
good.
respect the time for sure.
No doubt. No doubt. And we'll have a little bit more time to talk about Bobito and the re-release. And shout out Coop Art, who always tunes in. So we appreciate you, Coop Art. So stay tuned.
Absolutely.
Stay
Yes, thank
tuned.
you.
Yeah. So the last thing we do, I'll throw up an album cover on the screen.
Okay.
Name the album and the artist, and your challenge is to come up with the first word or a word
Oh,
that
geez. Let's
describes
stop
the album.
recording. Jesus. Lord, I'm horrible with stuff like this. Damn it. Okay. Okay, let's
All right.
do it.
First
Y'all.
one. We only got a couple. It's not.
Okay.
Sometimes I have
I'm
a
really
lot.
bad. No, I'm really bad. Breeze is a master at this. I'm the one who's like, what is that again? Oh yeah, Wu-Tang. Right. Enter 36 Chambers.
All
I'm
right.
really bad. Here we go.
Okay, here we go. One word that describes how you feel about this album right here. This is Use Your Confusion by Juggaknots.
Confusion. Damn confusion.
Fusion.
No,
There you
you
are.
know
No.
what? One word,
Yeah, there you are.
family.
Family. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
family.
So, this is the first album cover I
The hologram.
ever saw. Yeah, the
Yeah.
hologram.
That did
That was
that.
Kev. That
All
was
three
Kev.
faces. Isn't that
That was
crazy?
Kev. He's so
That's
cool.
fire, though.
Who did that? I'm sorry.
That was Slim. I
Oh, okay.
believe. I may get off this call and Breeze be like, nah, that was me. I recall that being a Slim decision. Yeah.
All right. So that came out a little
Thank
while
you,
ago.
Antoine.
And
Yeah.
then this, classic. Yeah, no doubt. This next one is about 13. A Magnificent Day for an Exorcism. Pharaoh Monch all over the lyrics on this one.
My word for that is, it's a phrase. drive to work. I have one word, repeat. I play
Repeat.
that album on
Mm,
repeat all the time. It's one of my
mm.
favorite albums. I love that damn album.
Yeah.
I love
It,
that
Wow.
album.
I fe-
Scarecrow, my child knows it and listens to it
oh
word
wow.
for word with me. Yeah, she knows. She just understands she's going to hear it multiple times.
Yeah.
That's repeat. That's the word for me.
I feel like this album was like such, and I've said this before, I think on this show. It's such a beautiful like stamp on the feeling of the world at that time. Like it was, there's a lot of anxiety, a lot of tension in the world, and like
Still
this album
resonates.
is beautiful in that regard. Okay.
I agree. Love it, love it. Repeat.
Coincidentally, the
Uh-huh.
same day that album came out, Hindsight by your brother Breeze Brewing came out.
Yes,
Same
it
day.
did. I
That was
helped
a good day.
promote it.
I
Yes,
know you did.
indeed.
I know you did. All right, one word for this joint.
Um, one word for that is actually a song. I'm gonna say "I Papa" because that's my favorite
Mm,
one. So it's
that's a joint.
technically two words, but
That's dope.
yeah,
Dope joint.
yeah.
That's a great album. A great album too. All right.
He's
All right. A little side note. Coop Art says, "Can we buy Queen Heroine's paintings?"
You can. You can. I haven't painted in a minute. Also a summer thing. I'm thinking of really getting serious about putting out prints. But I do really have some actual paintings if I would give you the tour in the crib. But yeah. That's a great question, Coop. And my goal is to get the painting going as well. And as that, maybe once I'm done with the album, I can focus some more on getting back into my painting. I don't know if I could draw a straight line anymore because I haven't painted in years. But yeah, no, I'm excited to see what happens when I put the paint to the canvas. But some of the previous works, I'm definitely I'm definitely thinking of doing prints. Yeah, thank you
Right
for
on.
that. That's so
He is.
sweet. Thank you.
He is in.
A
Coop Art
true
is in on
creative.
that.
Awesome. I love
Yeah.
it.
And
I
rewinding a
love
little
it.
bit back to the Pharomonch joint, Antoine, I agree. Pharomonch is underrated.
I agree too.
He's one of the
Facts.
illest ever,
He's one of the
for
eldest
sure.
ever. And he's so humble,
So
man. He's
Yeah,
humble.
such a nice
Yeah.
guy. I mean,
yeah,
beyond just being an incredible artist, he's really a nice guy, just genuinely a good guy.
no doubt, no doubt. All right, next one. We just got a couple more. Next
Okay,
one,
sure, yeah.
De La Soul is Dead by De La Soul.
Oh. Okay, so I was just kind of, it's going to be another song. So Millie pulled a pistol on Santa. Oh no, I have
Mm.
one word. RX-7. RX-7. Mazda. Breeze used to play that whole album. He used to have an old RX-7. I actually learned
Mm.
stick shift on that car. He taught me stick shift
Oh
in the
wow.
parking lot in that car. But that used to bump in that car.
Wow.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
the time, like religiously. So yeah, because
That's
that's the
dope.
memory I have with that. Yeah,
That's such a dope album. All right.
incredible.
La- and Antoine also likes it and says, "Amazing album, 1991. Great follow up to 3 Feet High and Rising." I agree. I
Indeed,
agree. And
indeed.
I feel like it was like almost like two sides of the same coin. You know, it was a little bit
Hmm.
darker. I thought the
Yeah,
music was a little bit better, but still that great adventure with the skits and
Hmm.
songs that are
their
skits,
skits were the
skits that are
best.
songs. Yeah,
Their skits were the best.
Hilarious.
Their
yeah.
skits were the best.
My
Yeah.
favorite line on that joint is when Dave was talking about how at the biddies in the BK Lounge, and they come in and they're like, "Who are you?" And he's like, "Tracy
Right.
Chapman." And then
Yeah.
like he refers to a Tracy Chapman song later in the
Yes.
verse.
Yeah.
Classic.
I still love that. Anyway, all right, last joint of the
Okay.
night, the re-release by Juggaknots.
My word is gonna be honor, because it's really
Mm.
an honor to be connected and to actually, have those guys as my brothers. I don't,
Yeah,
they're wonderful brothers, they're wonderful fathers, they're wonderful men, but
Mm.
they're phenomenal artists as well. And I really, that inspired me tremendously, just watching them through that whole process. Even though I wasn't really in it thick at that time, I
yeah,
was observing it heavy. I was in the studio with them
Mm.
many nights, And so it's just an honor. It's honor to know and be part of and connected to those guys. They're pretty damn cool. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And
What is that like to have like what is that like it's, in Chicago used to be a family called the Delonis on my block.
Okay.
If you fought one of them, you had to
You
fight like all of them. You know what I'm saying? They
Yeah.
used to roll thick. Like so
Yeah.
to be what is that like to actually be able to create and rhyme with your actual brother? Like Profound is my brother. But
Yeah.
he not my blood brother. You know what I mean? I
Right.
look at him like
right.
he
Right.
my blood
Of
brother, but
course. Of course.
what is that like to just
You
be and
know,
all y'all dope? Like you know what I'm
thank
saying?
you.
Like
I think
what
I
is that
think
like?
sometimes thank you very much for that, Coop. Yes, definitely bless the fam. The parents, good Lord. You know, to be very transparent and honest, at the end of the day, it's a blessing to be able
Mm,
to do that. But it comes with its challenges too. We all
okay.
have our own personalities, being that we're all talented in our own right, and thank you for that. Sometimes it can be a push and pull,
Mhm.
creatively when it comes to decision making, and I think that's with any group, right?
Yeah.
There you have different personalities and things like that. So that's just the reality of a group. The fact that we're family, I think, helps in the sense that we'll always come back, at some point, to be like, okay, well, maybe we ain't figured that one out. Maybe we got some things to iron out here. But I love you.
mm,
I love you. Get home safe. I'll talk to you later. Take this rum and coke and leave me alone. Here's some egg and cheese, whatever. Yeah, get out of here.
right.
I love you still. So it comes with its challenges, but the beauty is that we're family and we love each other regardless, and that will
Yeah.
always, um supersede anything else. But at the same time, it also has you hold up that responsibility, especially, Slim is the eldest out of the
Mm,
our unit, and so
yeah.
he's real big on always kind of reeling it back in, like, yo, what are we doing? Let's make this happen. Shout out to Francesca in the chat, my sis.
Yo,
So
Francesca.
it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. So
Yes,
a,
indeed, sis.
a few
Appreciate you.
a few comments from some of our listeners tonight. Francesca says, "Loving every minute of this interview. Sending love and admiration to Queen and the Boom Bap chat, Boom Bap family from
Peace.
Francesca and Jason." So
Yeah,
Yes,
shout out to
yeah.
Jason is
you.
my Trini cousin.
Yeah. And A
Word.
Winsome says, "Love my fam. So proud."
That's
So
what's up.
Word.
thank you
Thank
for
you
tuning
so much.
in. And I wanted to go back
Sweet.
real quick
Yeah, of
to
course.
G Coop or Coop Art, sorry, not
Mm-hmm.
Coop Art, who asked about a Babito story. And I was curious to know, as you were observing
Mm-hmm.
the re-release and the recording of that music back then, was Babito involved in the recording of the music, or was he more just involved in, kind of just getting it out?
That's a good question. I want to say that I probably don't have the most accurate answer for that, just because I was, again, more kind of bystander looking in. The way that I remember Bobito, obviously he was heavily involved from an administrative standpoint, right?
Yeah.
And I think that was part of the beauty of the relationship, with my brothers, in the sense of the creativity. There was a genuine, I think, belief,
Hmm.
and admiration for what Juggaknots and my brothers were creating sonically, just in music and the culture.
Yeah.
So it wasn't about at all dictating, oh, do this, do that, from at all, from what I remember. I think it was more like, that's dope, let's get this out, push, promote. It was more an administrative, from a supportive, let's push this out,
Yeah.
than
Yeah.
this is what you need to do. And I think that was part of, again, the attraction to the relationship, because initially they were on Electra. My brothers
Mm.
had like an actual deal, with Electra Records. It was, what is
Oh
that?
wow.
East West. Yeah, they weren't a major
Mm,
label, so that was
Yeah.
that was actually what it was initially. And then that relationship severed, and I think that was more so from a creative standpoint, like issues that
Yeah.
maybe it wasn't mainstream enough at the time, what they were looking for. And so Bobito, being the voice that he was, with that whole underground, or what was labeled underground
Right.
movement, there was definitely that support system there, and a conduit right there to take the music and have it, and a real audience that was thirsty and hungry for what my brothers were bringing to the table creatively, and that made a major impact. So I feel like his role was more administrative in the vein that it was
Yeah.
at that time. Um, so I would think I would say it was more from that standpoint. It's interesting. I think maybe my brothers were really, for people who really understand, they were really at the forefront of that movement too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, underground. We talk about that whole, all that Def Jugs, like all of that was around the same time, obviously. But Juggaknots, they were really at the beginning of that, yeah,
Yeah.
where it
Yeah.
was taking the music and putting it out through the radio station. Obviously, Bobito was integral for doing that too, and having a voice not just for supporting, but having it heard through the radio station. That he, you know what I'm saying? So major from a media standpoint when we think
Yeah.
about what media was then, listening it to the radio on,
Right.
late at night into the morning hours. And that was necessary. I think without that platform, we wouldn't have the followers and the
Yeah.
supporters and the fan base that we still have after all these years, because how would they hear it
Right.
if it wasn't for Bobito, if it wasn't for the station, if it wasn't stuff like that,
Right.
which grew into shows and stuff like that. Now you
Yeah.
could just, YouTube, go back,
Right.
but it's Instagram, none of that existed then. So you had to have a vehicle in order to see and hear it. And I think he played a major role from that standpoint. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's right. Just from an outsider observing, and I mean, I think it's so important. I just appreciate you and what your brothers did, and then later, you mentioned Def Jux and Raucous, and because
Yeah,
we know where one segment of hip hop music was going during that time, and
for
to
sure.
to have people that were like, nah, that's not us. We're doing this other thing. People like me and Almas and Profound, like, we're eternally grateful for that, because that's our
But
that's
you
what we
guys are
Facts.
keeping that going, when you look at like even this platform here, having
Yeah.
these conversations,
Mhm.
preserving the culture, talking about, the continuation and acknowledging the things that have happened, before. It's like, again,
Yeah.
where are these platforms happening other than vehicles like this? So we're still
Right.
in gratitude for, you guys, and having platforms like this to share and communicate, what we do and what we love. It's just as important now.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that. And when the
Thank
album
you.
comes out, whatever we can do,
Absolutely.
want to
I'm
come
Yeah,
back on and
excited.
talk about it.
we
Yeah.
we gotta have you back on too to talk about the
I would
album
love
for
it. Yo,
sure.
I can't
Yeah.
wait. I'm telling you, there's so many joints. I'm so excited. And the one joint I have dropped that I didn't acknowledge, shout out to Beats by Solitaire in
Okay.
Chicago, fam out there,
Ooh.
and who did the production for Anger, which is the only song that's formally been released off of the
Okay.
project. That is
Nice.
the
Sweet.
first single. So shout out to Solitaire, shout out to Chicago.
Yeah,
Much
yeah.
love. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
You
Yeah.
know what I'm
Dope.
saying?
Dope.
That's what's
Well,
up, man.
before we do our shout outs of the night, definitely want to show love to the folks that have been tuning in, get some of these comments going. Our man Antoine, thanks for listening tonight. He said Def Jux, my favorite underground label by LP. Yeah, they put out some dope music. Dope,
Man,
dope.
Incredible
bro.
music. And
Yeah.
I don't know if I can say this, but there's some things that I think Breeze is doing. I think it's like one track that some collaborations that might be happening with L too, some new stuff.
Oh, dope, dope,
Yo.
Yeah,
dope. And then shout
LP
out.
always been ahead of the curve, man.
Yeah.
Like even with like
yeah.
Run the Jewels and Def
Yep.
Jux, he always like seemed like one step ahead. I just love the way
Yeah.
And
that dude
again, that
move,
goes
man.
back to what you were saying. It was such a big part of the conversation. Again, Bobito, it was a whole movement, and that's why I say I don't.
Mhm.
I'm in awe and humbled by my brothers, because I know. For those who acknowledge, great. For those who don't, I know I was there,
Yeah.
and those dudes were they were at the forefront of that movement. In addition to similar families, similar groups like that.
No doubt, no doubt. Speaking of that movement, Ian Charles, he knows everything. Ian Charles is just a
Shout
walking
out to Ian Charles.
encyclopedia.
I see him.
He
Thank you so
says,
much.
facts, Fondulum, Wildman Steve, Halftime Radio, Stretch and Bobbito, Special
Correct.
K and Teddy Ted, Def Jux, and many others were at the forefront and kept it going. Thank you, Ian
Indeed.
Charles, for always
real.
sharing your wealth of knowledge with us all. He
Indeed.
also said, great having Queen Herawin on here. Yes,
Thank you.
definitely. We got a great, some great advice from Coop Art for your album cover. Coop Art says, paint the cover.
Right.
Yo, Coop
Right.
about
No.
to have me have a whole exhibit. Coop about to have me do a whole line. I'm inspired, Coop. Thank you. I'm
That's
listening.
dope.
I'm on it. You know, I do stay in my lane, but you know, I'm not great at graphics, but I'm not afraid to have my painting become at the forefront. So we'll see. I
Yeah.
have a vision in my mind as to
Okay.
what I want to do for the cover. We'll see if it materializes, but I'm gonna have some art either way, Coop. Trust and believe. Trust and believe.
And one name I'm not sure if I've heard yet tonight, but we got to throw it out there. Antoine said Company Flow.
Company Flow.
Gotta
Oh,
just
yeah,
say their
of
name. Such a
course.
dope group in that
Of
You
era.
know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Of course.
LP and
Of
them. So
course.
right on.
Indeed. That's fam. Len,
Yeah.
Just.
Yeah, Lynn, man.
Len stays with the hilarious posts on IG. That's family too. That's
Oh, right.
he
I don't know
and
if I
Kev
followed.
actually have the
Shoot.
same birthday. So
Okay.
that's
Oh, word.
all.
That's dope.
Yeah. That's all family, man. And
That's
shout
dope.
out. I know in the chat I saw Ty Phoenix and Star and what's going on with the Kill Bill. Are y'all gonna do something again? That question often comes up, and I'm just grateful we did Kill Bill 3 together, and it was an amazing song. The energy is so dope together, and we keep getting it. So I don't know, at some point, I don't know if it'll ever be a formal project together, but that's fam. I love both of them. They're so talented. Star, we DM'd like 2 days ago. Ty Phoenix, same thing. So we're always, at some point in communication, and I love and respect them both. So talented, and I think it comes down to maybe just time and opportunity.
Yeah.
So if it's not a project, definitely some new music at some point, even if it's another joint, would be dope to do together. And God forbid if that doesn't happen, Lord knows we definitely did our thing on that together. But it would be great if we could. Yeah.
So you have that album you have to make, and then you have the art gallery you have to do, and you have to write your memoir. Don't forget about your memoir.
Indeed. Actually used to have an art gallery on the low for like 2 years, a real small
dope.
spot. And I curate once in a blue. So yeah, I
Nice.
hope to get back into that stuff.
Just do it during your
That's
playing
dope.
bell.
I'll just do it during
right?
my prep at work. My 45-minute prep. I'm gonna just work on all of the things. Yeah, indeed.
Queen Herawin, the last thing we always do on this show is give shout outs. So we'll give our round of shout outs, and then we'll turn it over to you for the last shout out. So Profound, who you want to shout out tonight, man?
Man, we give a shout out to the sister Queen, man, for coming on, man, and representing, being an educator on top of that. And we all know that our mothers is usually who we learn from first. And you a teacher and a mother at that, man. So props to you, definitely. The Boom Bap chat crew, my 6 that are somewhere in here destroying something. And shout out to Wifey and Chicago, man. You know how we do, man. Just give a shout out to Chicago, man.
Profound, you from Chicago too?
Yeah.
Oh man, I didn't know that. See,
Yep.
keep trying to reel me back in. Okay, go ahead. I didn't know.
Now that's it. I'm shouting out the crib today.
I know who to come to hang out and go get some Harold's with. All right, that's what's up.
You know what I'm saying? He a fierce MC too, Queen.
Oh, I can only
Pro ain't no
imagine.
joke.
That's
Pro ain't no joke.
We need a little Midwest reunion. That's all.
Yeah. All right, Omar, who you had tonight?
Man, my heart is full tonight, man.
Yeah.
I was tired, but man, my heart is full tonight, bruh. Man, my heart, my mind, everything, my spirit, man. So shout out, the Boom Bap Chat brothers, Bo, Stowe. You know what I'm saying? Till, you my brother too, man. You know what I'm saying? You my blood brother too, bro. You know what I'm saying? So shout out to Pro, you know what I'm saying? Shout out to Francesca and Jason. Yo, I love Francesca so much, man. That's my sister, man. She be holding me down since I've been out here in Toronto. So shout out to her and her husband, Jason. Shout out to, Antoine, Coop, Ian, Charles, all the faithfuls that be on here. And man, last but not least, shout out to my sister, my mentor, man, just a mental giant, lyricist, phenomenon, Queen Heroin, you know what I'm saying? Thank you for just coming through and just blessing the spot and sharing space with us. Thank you so much. And yo, shout out the home team, Chicago. You know what it is.
Yeah.
For sure.
There you
Yes,
go.
sir.
Thanks, Mas. I want to shout out Drez, a Black Sheep, who's going to be our guest in 2 weeks. Super excited to have him back on the Boom Bap Chat. Shout out to Jay Rawls. Speaking of education, he's going to be our guest next Thursday. So
dope.
Super excited to have him back on. And shout out, like you said, everyone that came through on the chat. A. Winsome, also known as Mandy, and Antoine, and everyone on the chat. Appreciate y'all tuning in. And to the Juggaknots, shout out to the Juggaknots, the whole family, and obviously, shout out to you, Queen Heroin. Thank you for taking your time to be with us. But anytime we have educators on that are in the classroom, that are teaching and giving, themselves to young people, I think I'm not sure there's a higher calling in life, but to do that, to educate the next generation. So thank you for doing that work. We really appreciate you. And with that, we'll let you take it away with the final shout outs.
I just want to thank you guys so much. I usually am passed out by this. This is past my bedtime. So I similarly feel like Mas said, just totally filled. And I'm in gratitude for you guys, like just blushing, honored, humbled. Thank you for this platform. Thank you for taking the time and interest to have me on the show. So shout out to the Boom Bap. Shout out to the brothers, to the Juggaknots. Shout out to my baby girl, my daughter. Shout out to this 4-legged daughter who's going to have me wanting to cuddle in 2 minutes, and I'm going to have to kick out the bed. Shout out to my students. Shout out to everyone who's on this new project. I'm so grateful for your contributions, your creativity, your support, your love, and everyone in the chat. Appreciate y'all, man. What we do because we love. It's deeper than just, I go to work tomorrow to also pay the bills. That's important as well. So we're up now because, this is a genuine love for what we do and who we are. So thank y'all for taking the time to come through. Yes, and I'm out. Appreciate y'all.
And on that note, we say
peace.
Yeah.
Bang it up.
Yo.